Deep in the uncharted forests of the planet Virilia, mist clung to the ground like a living thing. Tall trees with silver bark stretched high into the sky, their leaves shimmering with a soft blue glow even in daylight. The air hummed with quiet energy, as if the planet itself was breathing. No human colony had ever claimed this world. No alien fleet had mapped its rivers or mountains. It was forgotten, hidden behind layers of cosmic dust and old star charts no one trusted anymore. Yet someone walked through the trees. Lisa moved with slow, careful steps. Her boots barely made a sound on the mossy ground. She wore a faded gray scout uniform, patched in several places with a small insignia on the shoulder that had long since lost its color. Her dark hair was tied back and her eyes, sharp and green, scanned every shadow, every branch, every ripple in the air. She carried no heavy weapons, only a compact pulse rifle slung across her back and a belt of tools at her side. Most of her gear was handmade or scavenged, worn but reliable. Beside her, padding lightly on 4 clawed feet, was Kale. Kale was not large by dragon standards, if such a thing even existed anymore. He stood about waist-high on Lisa, his scales a deep emerald green that shifted to bronze in the sunlight. His wings were folded tight against his back, leathery and strong. His eyes glowed faintly amber, always watching, always alert. A thin line of smoke curled from his nostrils as he sniffed the air. He made no sound, but his presence filled the space around them like a silent storm. They had been on Virilia for 17 days. Lisa had not come here by choice. Her scout ship, the Dawn Runner, had suffered a core failure during a routine survey near the outer rim. She had ejected in a pod, crashing through Virelia's thick atmosphere with only Kale for company. The pod was destroyed on impact. Communications were dead. Rescue was not coming. So she did what she always did. She adapted. At first, the forest had seemed empty, but soon she noticed the ruins. Half buried under roots and vines, ancient stone structures dotted the landscape. They were smooth, carved with symbols that meant nothing to her but felt heavy with meaning. Sometimes at night the stones would hum. Sometimes lights would flicker deep within them. Lisa did not enter them. Not yet. She watched. She waited. And she listened. Kale had been different since they arrived. More alert. More focused. As if he recognized something in the air, in the ground, in the very bones of the planet. He would sit for hours near certain stones, head tilted, eyes half closed as if dreaming. Lisa did not question it. She trusted him more than any map or machine. On the 18th morning, everything changed. Lisa woke before sunrise as usual. Kale was already awake, standing at the edge of their small camp, tail twitching. His ears, small pointed flaps near his horns, were angled forward. He let out a low, rumbling sound, too quiet for human ears to catch but strong enough to vibrate in Lisa's chest. She rose quickly, grabbing her rifle. No alarm had sounded. No motion sensors had triggered. But Kale never lied. She moved to his side and followed his gaze. Through the trees far to the east, something glinted. Not sunlight on water, not metal from a wreck. This was sharp, precise, artificial. A reflection off polished armor. Aliens. Lisa crouched low, heart steady. She had seen alien ships before from a distance, heard stories of the Crother Dominion, a vast expansionist empire that consumed worlds like fuel. They believed themselves superior. They believed no species without a fleet or a planet-wide network could pose a threat. They did not know about Lisa. They did not know about Kale. The glint moved again, then another. And another. At least 6 figures moving in perfect formation through the trees. They wore sleek black armor with crimson accents, helmets shaped like snarling beasts. Their weapons were long and angular, humming with contained energy. They scanned the area with handheld devices, confident, unhurried. They thought they were alone. Lisa signaled Kyle with a single finger to her lips. He blinked once, understood. She backed away slowly, not turning, not making a sound. Kale followed, his claws retracting to avoid snapping twigs. They moved west, deeper into the forest toward the ruins Lisa had been watching. The Crother scouts did not notice them. They stopped near a clearing and began setting up a small relay beacon. One of them tapped a command into a wrist panel. A hologram flickered to life, a rotating map of Virilia, marked with potential resource zones. They spoke in sharp, guttural tones, their language harsh but efficient. Lisa watched from behind a thick trunk 50 meters away. She counted 7 now. One had emerged from a cloaked drop pod she had not seen land. They were thorough, professional, dangerous, but they were also arrogant. They did not post sentries. They did not scan the treetops. They assumed nothing on this planet could challenge them. Lisa smiled faintly. She knew these woods now. She knew where the ground was soft, where the vines could be rigged, where the old stone channels still carried traces of energy, and she knew Kale could move faster than their sensors could track. She turned and gestured toward a narrow path between two moss-covered pillars, the entrance to one of the smaller ruins. Kale nodded and slipped ahead, vanishing into the shadows like smoke. Lisa followed, but not before placing a small device on a nearby branch, a sonic emitter she had built from parts of her pod. It would stay silent until triggered. Back at the ruin, she found Kale waiting inside a circular chamber. The walls were lined with carvings, spirals, stars, figures with wings. In the center of the room, a shallow pool of clear water reflected the ceiling, though there was no light source visible. The air here was cooler, calmer. Kale nudged her hand with his snout, then pointed his head toward a crack in the far wall. Lisa approached and saw it, a narrow tunnel sloping downward. She had not noticed it before. It must have opened recently, perhaps triggered by the aliens' arrival. She hesitated only a moment before stepping in. The tunnel led to a lower chamber, dry and warm. Along the walls were shelves of strange crystals pulsing gently with inner light. In the center stood a pedestal with a single object, a smooth black stone no larger than her palm, covered in the same symbols as the ruins. As she reached for it, Kale growled softly, not a warning but a confirmation. She picked it up. It was warm. It hummed. Outside, the forest grew louder. The Crothar were moving again. Their voices carried farther now. They had found signs of recent activity. Burned wood, footprints, a discarded ration wrapper. They were getting closer. Lisa returned to the main chamber. She placed the black stone into a hollow in the wall. Instantly, the carvings on the floor lit up with soft blue lines. The pool in the center rippled, though no wind blew. Kale's eyes widened. He let out a low chirp, almost like surprise. Lisa understood. The ruins were not just old. They were active, and they responded to intent. She stepped back and focused, not on fighting, not on fear, but on protection, on defense. The lines of light spread outward, racing through cracks in the floor, vanishing into the earth. Above ground, the Crothar scouts froze. Their sensors went wild. Energy readings spiked. The ground trembled slightly. Vines near their feet began to twitch, then coil. One of them shouted into his comm. Possible geothermal anomaly. Scanning for... Before he could finish, the forest struck. Vines shot from the earth, wrapping around legs and arms. Roots rose like serpents, tripping the aliens off balance. The sonic emitter Lisa had left behind activated, releasing a high-frequency pulse that scrambled their helmet audio and made their vision blur. Kale burst from the ruin entrance with a roar that shook leaves from the trees. Fire erupted from his jaws. Not orange flame, but a white-hot stream that melted armor on contact. 2 Crothar fell instantly, their suits fusing to their skin. The others fired wildly, but their shots passed through illusions, after-images created by the shifting light of the ruins. Lisa appeared on a high branch, fired 3 precise shots from her pulse rifle, disabling their relay beacon and 2 weapon cores. Then she was gone again. Confusion turned to panic. "Who is that?" one alien yelled, voice distorted by static. "Scan shows only one life sign, human, but that's impossible. The creature. It's not in any database." Their commander tried to rally them, but Kale landed in front of him, wings spread wide, eyes blazing. The alien raised his weapon, but the ground beneath him cracked open, and thick roots dragged him down. Within minutes, it was over. The surviving Crothar activated emergency beacons and fled toward their drop pod. Lisa did not chase them. She stood at the edge of the clearing, breathing steadily, watching them go. Kale returned to her side, smoke curling from his jaws. He nudged her arm, then looked toward the sky. Far above, hidden by clouds, a larger ship waited, the Crothar mothership. It had not moved. Not yet. Lisa knew they would be back, with more troops, with heavier weapons, with questions. But for now, the forest was quiet again. She walked back to the ruin, picked up the black stone, and tucked it into her belt. It still hummed softly like a heartbeat. Somewhere deep in the woods, a new presence stirred. Not hostile, not friendly. Watching. Lisa looked toward the trees and whispered, "Thank you." Then she and Kale disappeared into the mist, leaving only scorched earth and broken armor behind. The Crother would report what they saw. They would say they encountered resistance. They would mention fire, traps, speed, and silence. But they would not understand, because they had not seen an army. They had seen only a human scout. The Crother Dominion did not suffer failure lightly. Within hours of the scout team's retreat, a command frigate dropped from orbit silent and sleek, its hull absorbing light like a void. It hovered over the eastern ridge of Viralia, scanning the forest below with cold precision. The report from the survivors had been fragmented, panicked, and dismissed by many as sensor error or stress-induced hallucination. But High Commander Vrex had seen enough anomalies in his long campaign to know when something real was hiding in the static. He ordered a full tactical sweep, not another scout team, not a probe. A battalion. 60 armored soldiers, 3 heavy walkers, 2 drone swarms, and 1 elite strike unit equipped with phase disruptors. Weapons designed to tear through energy shields and organic matter alike. They landed in a wide perimeter around the last known location of the human. Drop pods punched through the canopy, scattering debris and heat. The forest trembled but did not cry out. It waited. Lisa had expected this. From a high ridge half a kilometer west, she watched the landing through a cracked lens she had salvaged from her pod. Kale lay beside her, belly flat against the cool stone, eyes narrowed. The black stone from the ruin rested in her pocket, warm and steady. Since taking it, she had dreamed strange dreams. Of tall figures with silver eyes, of songs in a language with no words, of a time when dragons flew between stars. She did not understand them, but they gave her calm. She knew she could not fight 60 soldiers head-on, not even with Kale. But she did not need to. Viralia was not just a planet. It was a weapon, and she had begun to learn how to aim it. She moved first at dusk, while the Crother set up a fortified base near the ruined clearing. Lisa slipped through the undergrowth like a shadow. She carried no rifle this time, only tools. Wires. Small canisters filled with a glowing liquid she had collected from the pool in the chamber. The liquid reacted to sound, to motion, to intent. Maya, the name came to her in a dream, had whispered it meant truth water. It showed what was hidden. She placed the first canister beneath a root near the edge of the Crother perimeter. Then another near a supply crate. A third inside an empty drone casing left behind by the scouts. Each placement was precise, timed with the rhythm of the wind. Kale stayed high in the trees, silent, watching the patrols. The Crother moved in pairs, scanning constantly. But their sensors were tuned for metal, for heat, for known biological signatures. They did not expect a dragon whose body temperature matched the ambient air, or a woman who moved like the mist itself. At midnight, Lisa triggered the first trap. A low hum pulsed from the canisters. The liquid inside vaporized, spreading a fine mist that clung to armor and skin. Where it touched, the Crothar's own tech began to betray them. Helmet displays flickered, showing false readings. Enemies behind them, allies ahead, cliffs where there was flat ground. One soldier fired at his own comrade, convinced he was an infiltrator. Another stumbled into a ravine, screaming as his stabilizers failed. Confusion spread faster than fire. Then Kale struck. He did not roar this time. He dove from the canopy like a falling star, claws out, jaws open. His fire was not wide and wild, but focused. A thin beam of white heat that sliced through a heavy walker's joint, melting it in place. The machine collapsed, crushing 2 soldiers beneath it. Lisa followed, not with bullets, but with echoes. Using salvaged comm parts and the black stone, she had built a simple resonance box. When activated, it replayed sounds, footsteps, voices, weapon charges from different locations. To the Crother, it sounded like a platoon was flanking them from 3 directions at once. They turned, fired, shouted orders that contradicted each other. High Commander Vrex watched from his command pod, hovering just above the treetops. His face was hard, unreadable, but his fingers tapped rapidly on the armrest. "Identify the source of the audio distortion," he ordered. "Unable, sir. It's not electronic. It's organic, like the planet itself is speaking. Impossible." Yet the evidence was clear. No ships in orbit. No troop signatures. No energy spikes from hidden bases. Just one human life sign, faint, moving, always just out of range, and an unknown creature that defied classification. Vrex made a decision. He sent in the elite strike unit. These soldiers wore matte black armor that absorbed light and sound. Their visors showed no reflection. They moved without speaking, without radio chatter. They were hunters, and they knew how to track ghosts. Lisa felt them before she saw them, a shift in the air, a stillness where there should be rustling leaves. Kale's tail stiffened. She signaled him to stay low and backed into a narrow ravine lined with glowing fungi. The fungi dimmed as she passed, as if bowing. The elites entered the ravine 3 minutes later. They moved in a diamond formation, scanning every crevice. One knelt and touched the ground, reading heat traces. Another held a device that pulsed with soft red light. Seeking the black, Stone's energy signature. Lisa was already above them. She had climbed the ravine wall using roots and handholds invisible to untrained eyes. Now she lay flat on a ledge, watching. She did not breathe heavily. She did not blink too often. She became part of the rock. When the lead elite passed directly below, she dropped, not on him. Beside him, she rolled, came up fast, and jammed a sharpened shard of crystal, taken from the ruins' shelves, into the joint of his armor. It was not strong enough to pierce, but it disrupted the power flow. His systems flickered. His visor went dark for half a second. That was all Kale needed. The dragon dropped from a higher ledge, landing on the elite's back, claws digging into weak points. A short burst of fire melted the helmet seal. The soldier collapsed, gasping. The others spun, weapons raised. But Lisa was gone. She had already vanished into a side tunnel, one the Krothar sensors had missed because it was shielded by layers of magnetic stone. Kale followed, his wings folding tight against his body. Inside the tunnel, the air was thick with ancient energy. Symbols on the walls glowed brighter as they passed. Lisa pressed her palm to one, and the ground behind them trembled. Stone slid into place, sealing the entrance. Outside, the remaining elites searched. They found nothing. No trail, no heat, no sound. Back at the main base, morale was crumbling. Soldiers reported seeing figures in the trees, tall, pale, with eyes like stars. Others swore their weapons turned cold in their hands. One claimed a vine whispered his name in his native tongue. Vrex refused to believe in ghosts, but he could not deny the losses. 12 soldiers down, 2 walkers disabled. The drone swarm malfunctioned and turned on its own launchers, and still no enemy in sight. He called for orbital scans again. The reply came cold and clear. Only one human signature confirmed. No reinforcements, no hidden fleet, no structures beyond the ruins. Vrex stared at the screen. Then how? His words trailed off. At that moment, deep in the forest, Lisa stood before the central ruin once more. The black stone in her hand pulsed in time with her heartbeat. Kale sat beside her, smoke curling gently from his nose. The ground around them shimmered, not with heat but with memory. Images rose in the air, ghostly, silent. Humans, not from Earth, but from another time. They wore simple clothes, worked with stone and light, lived in harmony with creatures like Kale. They were not warriors, but when invaders came, they did not flee. They used the land itself as their shield. Lisa understood now. The ruins were not just buildings. They were a library, a defense system, a promise, and she was its current keeper. She placed the black stone back into the pedestal. The lines of light flared brighter than before. The pool in the center rippled, then stilled, showing not the ceiling, but the sky above, showing the Krothar frigate, the soldiers below, the fear in their movements. Kale nudged her hand. She nodded. The next phase would begin at dawn. While the Krothar slept in shifts, uneasy and exhausted, Lisa and Kale moved through the network of tunnels beneath the forest. They placed more canisters. They activated old channels that carried sound and energy across great distances. They wove a web of illusions so real, even the planet seemed to believe them. By morning, the forest was ready. When the first rays of light touched the treetops, the Krothar base came under attack, not from one direction. From all, phantom soldiers appeared on every ridge, holograms powered by reflected light and sonic distortion. Distant explosions echoed from empty hills. The ground shook as if heavy vehicles were approaching. Trees bent as though pushed by invisible hands. The Krothar fired into the mist. Their shots hit nothing. Their drones spun in circles, confused by false signals. Lisa stood on a high bluff watching. She did not smile. She did not gloat. She simply observed the unraveling of certainty. High Commander Vrex finally lost his composure. "Retreat," he barked. "All units fall back to the frigate." Now but the retreat was chaos. Vines tripped fleeing soldiers. Roots snagged their boots. The mist thickened, blinding them, and through it all, Kale moved like a ghost, striking only when needed, vanishing before they could aim. By the time the last drop pod launched, 30 more Crothar were down, unharmed but disoriented, terrified, some weeping in their native tongue. Vrex stood on the frigate's bridge, staring at the planet below. His officers waited for orders. He said nothing for a long time. Then quietly he spoke. That was not a scout team. That was a trap. But his science officer shook his head. "Sir, the data shows only one." The woman stood still, her bare feet touching the moss without bending a single blade. Her skin held the soft sheen of moonstone, and her eyes, deep silver without pupils, seemed to hold the whole forest inside them. She did not speak with her mouth, but Lisa heard her voice all the same, clear and calm inside her mind. "You have awakened the old paths." Lisa did not step back. She had faced fire, void, and silence. This was different but not frightening. Kale sat beside her, tail curled, watching the woman with quiet recognition, as if he had known her long before this moment. The woman raised a hand, not in threat, but in greeting. Her fingers were long, delicate yet strong. Vines nearby shifted slightly as if bowing. "I am Maya, last of the Varelian Watchers." Lisa nodded slowly. "I am Lisa. And this is Kale." Kale remembers. He has always remembered. Kale made a soft sound, almost like a purr. Smoke curled from his nose, but it was gentle now, not a warning. Maya stepped closer. The air around her smelled of rain and old stone. She looked past Lisa toward the ruins, toward the scorched patches where the Crothar had fallen. Her expression did not change, but something in her posture tightened. They will return. Stronger. Angrier. They do not understand balance. They only take. "They think we are weak because we are few," Lisa said. "They think silence means absence. They are wrong." Maya turned and walked toward the central ruin. She did not look back, but Lisa knew she was meant to follow. Kale rose and padded after them, his claws clicking softly on the stone path that had not been there moments before. Inside the chamber, the pool glowed brighter than ever. The symbols on the walls pulsed in slow rhythm like breathing. Maya knelt by the water and dipped her fingers in. Ripples spread, but instead of reflecting the ceiling, the pool showed images: stars, ships, burning worlds. The Crothar Dominion has consumed 317 worlds. They leave only dust and silence. They believe strength is numbers. They do not know that true strength is knowing when not to strike. Lisa watched the images. They will send more than a frigate next time. Yes, they will send a war cruiser, maybe two. They will burn the forest to find you. Then we must be ready. Maya looked at her, silver eyes unreadable. "You are not Varelian. You are not of this world. Why do you fight for it? Because it gave me shelter. Because it showed me truth. Because Kale is part of it, and so am I now." Maya was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded. "You may learn." Over the next days, the forest changed. Not in a way the Crothar would notice from orbit, but in ways that mattered. Roots grew thicker, forming hidden tunnels. Stones shifted to create new paths only Lisa and Kale could see. The glowing fungi spread, lighting safe zones in soft blue. And Maya taught. She did not speak in lectures. She showed. She guided Lisa to places where the planet's energy pooled. Clearings where time moved slower. Caves where sound could be shaped like clay. Trees whose bark could store memories. Lisa learned to listen not just with her ears, but with her skin, her bones, her breath. She learned that fear could be redirected, that anger could be absorbed by the earth, that courage could make the light brighter. Kyle learned too. Maya placed her hands on his head and whispered words that had no sound. His scales began to shimmer with faint patterns when he flew, patterns that bent light and confused sensors. His fire grew hotter, but also more precise, able to melt metal without scorching leaf. They trained together, the three of them, human, dragon, watcher, moving as one through the forest. Meanwhile, far above, the Crothar prepared. High Commander Vrex had been summoned to the Dominion flagship, the Iron Maw. There, before the War Council, he stood alone. His report met with disbelief and scorn. One human and a beast held off a battalion. A general sneered. "You are either lying or broken." Vrex did not flinch. "I saw the data. I felt the fear in my own troops. Something on that planet is alive in a way we do not understand. Superstition, another officer said. Send the Dawn Crusher. Level the forest. Glass the surface. Bring back the ruins if they are valuable. Burn the rest. The council agreed. 3 days later, a war cruiser entered Virelia's orbit. It was massive, black as coal, bristling with plasma cannons and drone launchers. It did not hide. It announced its presence with a deep resonant pulse that shook the planet's upper atmosphere. Lisa felt it in her chest. She stood on the highest ridge, Kale beside her, Maya behind them both. The black stone hung on a cord around her neck now, warm against her skin. They are not just coming to fight, Lisa said. They are coming to erase. They cannot erase what they do not understand, Maya replied in her mind. Below, the forest stilled. Birds fell silent. Insects ceased their hum. Even the wind held its breath. The first drop came at dawn. Not pods this time. Orbital strikes. Beams of white-hot plasma lanced down, striking the eastern forest. Trees turned to ash in seconds. Stone melted into glass. The ground cracked open, spewing smoke. But the strikes missed the ruins. Lisa had moved them. With Maya's guidance, she had activated the oldest chamber, the heart of the network. The ruins were not fixed in place. They could shift, guided by intent and energy. As the plasma beams fell, the stones sank into the earth, traveled through hidden channels and rose again in new locations, deeper in the forest. The Krothar did not notice. Their scans showed only destruction. Then the real assault began. Hundreds of soldiers, armored skiffs, sonic tanks designed to shatter rock and bone. They advanced in a wide front, burning everything in their path, leaving no cover, no shadows. But Virelia was not just cover, it was a weapon. As the first skiff rolled over a patch of glowing moss, the ground beneath it softened. The vehicle sank, swallowed by roots that grew faster than metal could resist. Soldiers jumped out only to find their boots stuck in living tar, sap from ancient trees awakened by Maya's song. Lisa struck from the west, not alone, with echoes. Using the planet's energy and the black stone, she and Maya had woven a phantom army. Not just sounds this time, but shapes. Figures made of light and mist wearing human armor moving in formation. The Crother fired at them, wasting ammunition on ghosts. Kale soared above, silent until he chose to be heard. He targeted the sonic tanks first. His fire melted their emitters, turning their own weapons into molten scrap. Then he dove on skiffs, disabling engines with precise strikes. But the Krothar adapted. They sent in shielded units. Soldiers in reinforced armor that resisted heat and energy. They moved slowly, methodically, clearing the forest in sections. They planted signal jammers to disrupt the illusions. Lisa watched from a high branch, heart steady. She knew this phase would come. She had planned for it. She touched the black stone. Deep below in the heart chamber, Maya began to sing. It was not a song of words, but of vibration, low resonant tones that traveled through stone and root and water. The planet answered. The ground beneath the shielded units began to hum. Their armor, designed to block energy, could not block resonance. The vibrations shook their bones, blurred their vision, made their weapons too heavy to lift. One by one, they fell to their knees. Then the vines came, not just to bind, but to show. Each vine that touched a Krothar soldier carried a memory, not of war, but of home, of a child's laugh, of a sunset on their birth world, of peace. The soldiers did not scream. They wept. They dropped their weapons and covered their faces. High above, in the war cruiser, Vrex watched the feed go dark. "What is happening down there?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir. Biosigns are stable, but they are not fighting. They are just sitting. Send the enforcers." The enforcers were different, not soldiers. Machines. Tall, faceless constructs of black alloy programmed only to destroy. No fear, no memory, no mercy. They dropped from the cruiser like falling stars. 10 of them, each 10 meters tall, each armed with plasma claws and gravity hammers. They marched through the forest, crushing everything in their path. Illusions shattered before them. Vines burned on contact. Even Kale's fire only left shallow marks. Lisa knew she could not stop them with traps or tricks, so she did something else. She walked toward them. Kale tried to block her, but she placed a hand on his snout. "Stay," she whispered. Maya appeared beside her. "You cannot face them alone." "I am not alone," Lisa said. She walked into the clearing where the first enforcer stood. It turned its blank face toward her. Sensors scanned. Identified. Classified as threat level low. It raised its hammer. Lisa did not flinch. She held up the black stone and spoke one word. Remember. The stone flared with white light. The enforcer froze. Deep in its core, buried under layers of code and command, was a seed. A fragment of the same energy that flowed through Virelia. All machines built near living worlds carried traces of it. Even if their makers did not know, the light touched that seed for a single second. The enforcer remembered what it was to be more than a weapon. Then it powered down. One by one, Lisa walked to each enforcer. Each time she said the same word. Each time the machine stilled. The Crothar on the cruiser watched in horror as their unstoppable weapons simply stopped. Rex stood in silence, his hands clenched. "What is she?" he whispered. No one answered. On the ground, Lisa turned to Maya. They will not send more machines, no. Now they will send themselves. And far above, the war cruiser began to descend. Not to bombard, to land. The Dominion had decided to meet the enemy face to face. Lisa looked at Kale, at Maya, at the forest that had become her home. She was ready. The war cruiser did not land gently. It tore through the upper canopy like a falling mountain, its thrusters scorching the sky. When it settled in the northern valley, the ground cracked for kilometers. Trees bent away from its heat. Birds fled in silent waves. The air grew thick with the smell of ozone and burnt metal. This was no longer a hunt. It was a challenge. From the belly of the ship, a ramp lowered, not with soldiers, not with machines, with officers. High Commander Vrex walked first, his armor stripped of all insignia, polished to a dull black. Behind him came 3 generals, each from a different conquered world, their faces hard, their eyes sharp. They carried no weapons openly, but their belts held blades forged from the cores of dead stars. They had come not to destroy blindly, but to understand. And if understanding failed, to erase with their own hands. They believed that whatever power Lisa wielded, it must have a source. A device. A hidden base, a god. They would find it. And they would break it. Lisa watched from the edge of the heart grove. Kale stood beside her, wings half spread, smoke curling steadily from his nostrils. Maya was gone, not vanished, but woven into the forest itself. Her presence felt in the rustle of leaves and the pulse of light in the stones. "They think we are hiding something," Lisa said softly. "They cannot see that the power is in the choice." Maya's voice came, not in her mind this time, but in the wind. Lisa touched the black stone at her chest. It was warm but calm. It did not fear. She stepped forward, not in stealth, not in shadow, in plain sight. She walked down the ridge across the scorched earth left by the orbital strikes toward the war cruiser. Kale followed, not behind her but beside her, head high, eyes fixed on Vrex. The Crothar officers stopped 20 meters away. Vrex raised a hand, signaling his guards to hold back. "You are the human," he said. His voice was rough but not loud. "I am Lisa," she replied. "You fight alone. Not alone, but not with an army." Vrex studied her. She was small, tired. Her clothes were worn, her boots cracked. She carried no visible weapon. Yet she had broken his best units, silenced his machines, turned his soldiers' minds against their orders. "What are you?" he asked. "A scout, like your first team." He almost laughed. "A scout does not command, Forrest. I do not command." "I listen." Vrex frowned. He glanced at the trees. They seemed ordinary, yet he felt watched, not by eyes but by something older. "Where is your fleet?" he demanded. "Earth has no fleet near here. I was alone when I crashed. Then how?" "Virelia chose to help. Not me, the planet." He shook his head. "Planets do not choose. Yours might not. This one does." Vrex stepped closer. "Prove it." Lisa did not move. She simply looked at the ground between them, and the ground answered. A single vine rose from the ash. It was thin, green, fragile. It curled once in the air, then bloomed with a small white flower that glowed faintly. The scent filled the space, clean, sharp, alive. The Crothar general shifted. One touched his blade. Vrex stared at the flower. Illusion. Lisa knelt and picked it. She held it out to him. "Smell it." He hesitated, then took it. The moment his fingers touched the stem, his eyes widened. The scent triggered a memory. His childhood garden on Crothar Prime, long buried under factories and war halls. For a heartbeat, he was a boy again, barefoot in the grass, He dropped the flower as if burned. Enough tricks, he growled. We will take the ruins. We will study them. If you stand in our way, we will burn you with our own hands. Lisa stood. You do not understand the ruins. They are not tools. They are teachers. Then teach us, one of the generals said, stepping forward. Or die. Kale growled low, a sound that vibrated in the bones, but Lisa raised a hand. I will show you. She turned and walked back toward the heart grove. After a moment, Vrex followed. His generals came too, wary, hands near their blades. They entered the central chamber. The pool glowed softly. The symbols on the walls pulsed like slow heartbeats. This is it, Vrex said, looking around. Stone and water. Look deeper, Lisa said. She stepped to the pool and placed her hand on the surface. The water did not ripple. Instead, it showed images. Virelia as it was thousands of years ago. Cities of light woven into trees. Dragons flying between mountain peaks. Watchers like Maya walking with beings of many kinds, sharing knowledge, not war. We did not build weapons, Lisa said. We built harmony. Weakness, the general muttered. Is it weak to live without destroying? Lisa asked. Your empire grows by taking. Virelia grows by giving, Vrex said nothing. He watched the images, saw a Krothar-like figure in the vision, long ago, before their world turned to dust, sitting with a watcher, learning to heal, not harm. That was not us, he said, but his voice lacked certainty. It could have been, Lisa replied. Then she turned to Kyle. Show them. Kyle stepped to the center of the chamber. He closed his eyes. Smoke curled from his nose, but this time it carried sparks of gold. The air grew warm, not hot. The walls brightened. And then he changed, not in size, not in shape. But in presence, his scales shimmered with ancient light. His wings spread and patterns flowed across them. Stars, rivers, faces of long-gone beings. His eyes opened and they held not fire, but memory. He is not just a dragon. Maya's voice came echoing in the chamber, though she was not seen. He is a guardian spirit, bound to Virelia's core, dormant for ages, awakened by a heart that did not seek to conquer but to protect. Vrex took a step back. Spirit myth. You saw your own past in a flower, Lisa said. Now you see truth in him. The generals drew their blades, but before they could move, the chamber shook, not from outside. From within, the black stone on Lisa's chest flared. The pool rose, not as water, but as light. It formed shapes, hundreds of them. Not soldiers, not weapons. Echoes of every being who had ever stood in this place with peace in their heart. The Krothar officers froze. The light did not burn. It showed. It remembered. Vrex saw his mother's face. His first home. The sky before the smog. One general dropped his blade. It clattered on the stone. Lisa spoke softly. You do not have to be what your empire made you. For a long moment, silence filled the chamber. Then Vrex turned. We will leave. You will tell them Virelia is not worth conquering, Lisa said. I will tell them it is protected by something we cannot break. He walked out. His generals followed, heads low. But as they reached the ramp of the war cruiser, one of the generals turned back. What will you do if they send another fleet? Lisa stood at the chamber entrance, Kale beside her. We will be ready. The cruiser lifted off, slower this time. It did not fire. It did not scan. It simply left orbit and vanished into the stars. Lisa thought it was over. But Maya appeared beside her, her silver eyes troubled. They will not send another fleet. They will send the silence, and the silence, the Dominion's final weapon. Not fire, not force. A field that kills all life. No plants, no animals, no thought. Just empty space. They have used it before, on worlds that would not fall. Lisa's blood ran cold. When soon? They will not risk another failure. She looked at Kale. At the forest. At the ruins. Then we must do more than defend, she said. We must speak. Maya nodded. The dragon's fire burns not just flesh. It burns fear. And fear is what the Dominion feeds on. That night, Lisa and Kale climbed the highest peak on Virelia. The black stone pulsed in her hand. Maya stood below, her arms raised, singing the old song. Kyle spread his wings wide, and he breathed. Not fire aimed at the ground, but a beam of pure white light shot straight into the sky. It pierced the atmosphere, visible for light years. Not a weapon. A signal. A message. We are here. We are awake. Do not come with war. The light carried more than brightness. It carried memory, truth, the scent of the flower, the sound of the Watcher's song. The image of the boy in the garden. Any ship within range would see it. Any mind open enough would feel it. Deep in Crothar space, Vrek stood on the bridge of his new command vessel. He saw the light on his screen. He did not report it. He erased the data. But he remembered. On Virelia, Lisa stood with Kale as the dawn broke. The forest was quiet, but not empty. It was waiting. And now, so was the galaxy. The silence came not with sound, but with absence. 3 days after the war cruiser left orbit, the stars above Virelia dimmed, not from clouds or dust, but from something deeper, a void that swallowed light, heat, even thought. It drifted toward the planet like a slow tide, blacker than space itself. No engines hummed. No signals pulsed. It simply was. The Dominion had sent the silence. Lisa felt it first in her bones, a coldness that had nothing to do with temperature. The birds stopped singing. The glowing fungi dimmed. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Kale pressed close to her side. His usual warmth muted, his eyes watchful but heavy. Maya stood on the highest ridge, her silver eyes fixed on the sky. They do not wish to conquer. They wish to erase all memory of this place. Can we stop it? Lisa asked. Not with force. The silence feeds on resistance. The more you fight it, the stronger it grows. Lisa looked at the black stone. It was cool now, almost cold. Then we do not fight. We remember. Deep in the heart chamber, the three of them gathered. Lisa, Kale, and Maya. The pool was still, its surface like glass. The symbols on the walls glowed faintly, as if conserving strength. Outside, the forest grew quieter by the minute. Leaves lost their color. Streams slowed to a crawl. Maya placed her hands on the stone floor. The silence cannot take what is shared. It only consumes what is alone. Lisa understood. She knelt and placed her palm beside Maya's. Kale lowered his head, touching his snout to the stone between them. And they remembered together. Not just their own memories, but those of the planet. The first dragon's flight. The Watcher's first song. The human who once landed here long ago and chose to stay. The Crothar boy who smelled a flower and remembered home. All of it flowed into the chamber, into the stone, into the light. The black stone warmed. Outside, the silence reached the edge of the forest. Where it touched, color drained. Trees turned gray. Moss crumbled to dust. The air grew thin, empty. It moved slowly, patiently, certain of its victory. But then, from the heart chamber, a single note rose. Maya's song. Not loud, not fierce. Just true. The silence paused. From the ruins, light flickered, not bright but steady. The symbols on the stones glowed again. Soft blue pulses spreading through the ground like roots. The pool in the chamber rippled, and its reflection showed not the ceiling, but the faces of every being who had ever stood for peace on Virelia. Lisa stood. She walked to the entrance of the chamber and looked out at the approaching void. She did not raise a weapon. She did not shout. She simply spoke, her voice clear and calm. You are not welcome here. The silence shuddered. It had no mind, no will, but it had been built to erase, and for the first time it met something it could not consume, not because it was strong, but because it was shared. Memory cannot be unmade if it lives in more than one heart. Kale stepped forward. He opened his jaws, not to breathe fire, but to release a single, pure tone. It was the sound of the first sunrise on Virelia, stored in his spirit for ages. The tone spread through the air, meeting Maya's song, meeting Lisa's voice. The silence began to retreat. Not quickly, not in fear, but as if confused, as if it had never encountered something that chose to be seen, not hidden, to be known, not feared. High above in the void between stars, High Commander Vrex watched from his hidden post. He had not returned to the Dominion. He had stayed, cloaked, waiting. He saw the silence approach Virelia. He saw it stop. He saw it fade. He did not understand how, but he knew what it meant. He opened a private channel, one not linked to Dominion Command, and sent a single message, coded in an old scout frequency, one only humans might recognize. Abort. Repeat. Abort. That was only a human scout team. Then he turned his ship away from Crothar space, toward the outer rim, where forgotten worlds still dreamed. On Virelia, the forest breathed again. Color returned to the leaves. The streams flowed. Birds called from the treetops. The glowing fungi brightened, casting soft light on the path back to the ruins. Lisa stood at the edge of the clearing, Kyle beside her, Maya behind them both. The black stone rested once more in the pedestal, humming gently. The war was not over. The Dominion still ruled 1,000 worlds. Other fleets would come. Other weapons would be built. But something had changed. Virilia was no longer just a hidden planet. It was a story, and stories spread in distant systems. Ships began to report strange signals, songs in unknown tones, lights that carried memory, whispers of a human, a dragon, and a watcher who stood against the silence and won not by fighting, but by remembering. Lisa knew they would come again, but next time they would not come alone. Others would hear the song. Others would see the light. Others would choose to stand. For now, she turned and walked back into the forest. Kyle followed, his wings brushing the branches. Maya faded into the mist, her work done for now. The ruins stood quiet. The planet breathed. And somewhere, far beyond the stars, a single scout ship drifted, its crew listening to a signal they could not explain, but felt in their bones. The legend had begun.